Hello folks, it's Swank Ivy bringing you another Letters to an Asexual. This is number 61. Today I'm going to talk to you about a subject that is actually legitimately worth discussing, but I'm going to use a really rude letter to do it. The subject I'm going to cover is, what do you call people who are not asexual? This is actually a problem that we've dealt with a lot in our community, and I'm not going to go into it too much in my introduction because due to the content of the conversation that I had with one of my commenters, I end up explaining a lot of this pretty thoroughly. So I am going to just start with his comment, and this was left in the comments of one of my videos. I don't remember which one, and it was one of the viewers I had. He commented on several of my videos, and I'm pretty sure he left quite a few relatively annoying comments. Just, I hate to say that about somebody who's been watching my stuff and thinks that he's just sharing his opinions, but he was always coming across really combative, and almost because he was an older person who had identified as some kind of asexual for a really long time, he's kind of possessive about asexuality, and he thinks the rest of us are kind of upstarts, which is a little bit strange for, you know, somebody who has been working with communities for awareness, activism, and spreading information about asexuality really since I came to know myself as asexual, which I couldn't really do it before that. I happened to be, 14 or 15 when I first started to get an inkling that maybe I was asexual, and, what all could I really do if I wasn't born yet at the time that he was associating with broader queer groups and kind of staking some claim for asexuality in his own way. He kind of comes across as feeling like he has some claim to originality or some kind of authority to tell us how we're supposed to do it, even though what he was doing was not recognized by any large group of people as like the way. Which I have kind of mixed feelings about that, because I think as queer people we need to know our history, and we can't overlook some of the early developments even if they don't quite fit into the framework of how we see things today. But I do think that, when you start talking to somebody who is trying to rub that in your face to argue about legitimacy with you, that is where it gets really pointless. So I don't really care who was here first or how old you are. I care about authentic, respectful discussion. So as you will see here, I didn't really quite get that from this person. I think he was trying, but I couldn't really get on the same level with him because he was too busy yelling at me about like imagined slights that didn't come out of my mouth. So first I got this comment from him saying, "In your book, you often use the term non-asexual. Is this an academic term or your own? If it is an academic term, then fine, but it looks a bit clunky as a double negative. Why not just sexual?" And here's my response. There are a number of reasons why I choose to use non-asexual to describe people who aren't asexual. There is no universally accepted term as of this writing. The main reason I cannot just use sexual is that many people who aren't asexual have vehemently objected to being called this, most notably survivors of sexual assault and women of color who feel it sexualizes them, possibly even in a triggery way, or makes them feel gross to be referred to as sexual people. It is not for me to decide whether that's reasonable. I just listen. Furthermore, there are people who are demisexual or graysexual or otherwise in a gray area who sometimes do feel sexual attraction and therefore might be included when you say sexual, but are still in the asexual community. My use of non-asexual is meant to encapsulate anyone who is not under the asexual umbrella. The main objections to using non-asexual seem to be A, it's clunky, and B, we really should name the majority, the way trans folks have encouraged the use of cis for non-trans people. So far, no term the asexual community has come up with has been deemed acceptable to non-asexual people. They have vocally rejected every suggestion for one reason or another, and the most common term, allosexual, has been rejected by one of the people who popularized its use in the first place for some good reasons. Ultimately, I choose clunky over actively hurting people, and it's at least not unclear. Obviously, some non-asexual people have no trouble with the term sexual and use it themselves, but I'd rather err on the side of caution. So he comes back with this response. Reason B, and the use of cis. I hate the use with a passion because it is usually used as a slur. But it has been imposed on non-trans and accepted, so trying to find a word acceptable to non-asexuals should be treated with the same degree of imposition. Being invisible, we should be more pushy. If we do not, then we remain invisible. Be we ever so humble. And I replied, I disagree vehemently that cis is usually used as a slur. A slur is something that has been used in association with marginalization and oppression, and cis people are not oppressed by trans people for being cis. Someone using it to speak poorly of cis people, regardless of whether they deserve it in whatever situation, is not the same as using a slur. There isn't anything wrong with naming the majority, but there also isn't anything wrong with pointing out that a group with institutional power over a minority has done awful things to them, collectively. And usually when I see people claiming cis is a slur, it's because they don't like being painted with the same brush as people who have done gross things to trans people because of their transness. I can accept statements like, white people are awful, or cis people need to shut up, or abled people need to stop, because I recognize that if I'm not doing the bad thing, this wasn't directed at me, they don't need to put the qualifier some in front of it for me to understand this, and it gives me pause in the majority groups I'm in to think about whether I have done the thing, or contribute to others doing the thing uncritically, instead of just giving myself a pass automatically. I also disagree that we should impose anything on anyone just because we perceive that someone did it to us along another axis. Especially since bulldozing over sexual assault survivors and people of color who have been sexualized against their will is not an acceptable sacrifice in my opinion. The problems people have with non-asexual are much lesser, despite the problems that do exist. Hopefully one day there will be a term. I'm not interested in being the one to coin it. So he replies, and he says, I think you got my context wrong. The slur has always been used by other cis people against cis. The 3 trans people I personally know never refer to non-trans as cis. They, like us, hide, but deliberately so, for obvious reasons. Attention is not what they want. The tit for tat reason is not what I meant. Cis was implemented using LGBT pressure, a much bigger entity than trans alone. We are not part of LGBT. Have never been, just an ally. Have been for 31 years that I know. This after being removed from a pride march in 1985. I was too normal. Simon, I don't know who Simon is, Simon was furious about that as he asked me to attend and took it personally, so became an ally for us in the LGBT community here before leaving 15 years ago to avoid all the drama. Our presence has diminished for the last 15 to 20 years. The difference is, now we are branded special snowflakes or attention seekers, which I argue with passionately. Too many genders shouting for attention. We are lost in the cacophony. On a lighter note, I'll be giving a selected reading of your book to my little band of asexual friends since 1998. We meet on conference call every month. So I replied to that, and I said, I don't know any trans people who call cis people non-trans, but some people who are not cis also don't like to be called trans, while others do. So I just use what people ask me to use. I've certainly seen the "you're just special snowflakes" nonsense used against the asexual community by some people both inside and outside LGBTQ, and I have also seen some asexual people who have had cishet tossed at them as a label for someone who doesn't belong, but it's not the cis part of that isn't accurate for cis asexual people. It's the het, which implies heterosexual, which together with cis is used as a shorthand for someone who doesn't experience any ill effects from society over their orientation. And of course, in our case, that is not true. I don't see the connection between that and cis is a slur, nor do I think asexual lack of acceptance is the fault of too many genders shouting for attention, nor do I think anyone needing attention and support for their gender differences should be portrayed as diverting it from us with the implication that they don't deserve it. And his last response to me was this: biological sex is outdated and doesn't even exist according to SJWs at Avon. You're a bigot if you mention it as fact. Gender studies ideology madness. One of my female friends could have children, but would have to have surgery to enable this. She chose not to have this done. I do not regard her as any less a woman. Childbirth is a choice. Asexuals like myself are unable to rise to the occasion because of lack of sexual attraction. It doesn't define me or limit me in any interaction I choose with sexuals. Nothing is going to happen short of sexual assault by the other person. I'm not really sure where he was going with that. I think that was the point at which I think I ended up blocking this person because I'm seeing too much of this, like, oh, the other genders and these special snowflakes and stuff. That's not us, but that's them, and they're stealing our thunder. And just the weird stuff that he was dumping into the comments on several occasions just made me feel really uncomfortable, and I didn't feel like I could really have a conversation with him because, you know, he was really fixated on stuff that he perceived to be too newfangled and SJW. And, you know, you guys know from other conversations I've had in these videos that as soon as someone starts using SJW unironically, I know that it's unlikely I can have a productive conversation with them because, I mean, they're already looking at their interaction with me as if, you know, I must accept a whole bunch of invalid ideologies, you know, and I used to continue having conversations with people like this, and it ended up causing me more and more stress and more frustration because I was leaving myself open to just continue to have these unproductive conversations. And I think I'm still more open to them than most people. I'm still more tolerant, I'm still more patient, but I think I've started to recognize the signs of a circular conversation and or a conversation that makes me feel sort of unsafe. I also felt that whenever I got a communication from this person, it was with an assumption from him that I'm ignorant about something, and he just presumes ignorance when he talks to me. I don't have the conversation in front of me, but I remember another one where he left a comment in one of my singing videos and asked me, oh, have you ever tried opera? I would recommend that you pick up something in the mezzo range, and don't worry, there's plenty of English song sheets, so don't be intimidated because there's plenty of them in English. And, you know, here, I'm not a mezzo. You know, like, I know what my voice part is. I studied music in college, and I've certainly sung opera in other languages besides English. And, you know, you might not necessarily know that from listening to me or hearing me talk about my experience, but I think especially other women, but people of any gender will recognize that sometimes you'll be talking to somebody and you can just tell that they are talking to you assuming that you're ignorant. They're talking to you assuming that their knowledge is vast and yours is tiny, and you feel like you can't have a conversation with them on equal ground. You feel like you can't connect with them because they're too busy already perceiving you as needing explanations and needing to have information that you already know explained to you. I don't do so well with that sort of thing anymore. And especially since, I'm 40 years old now, but I'm, of course, still frequently interpreted as being much younger, partly because I'm small, partly because of how I interact with other people, that I tend to be sort of upbeat and chirpy, and when I interact with other people, they just take, I guess, certain cues from me and assume they're talking to a much younger woman, and that, as many people in that age and gender category could tell you, is synonymous with inviting disrespect from certain kinds of people, unfortunately. And I just felt like I was talking to one of those people, and that I just wouldn't be able to have a productive conversation with him no matter what. So I disconnected myself from being open to contact with him. I'm sure some people would consider that to be weak or to be unfair, or they might even accuse me of censoring the person, not caring about free speech, but I don't feel like I need to give a platform to people who have perspectives that I perceive as possibly being, dangerous to some of the people who follow me, having to look at my comments and see that kind of trash. So, he said it, I heard it, I'm done. I don't need to hear it again. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up this portion of the video, but I'm going to just show you something fun real quick. I got some fun new toys, and I want to show you guys. Let me disconnect this from the wall, and there we go. Look at my cool toys. These are new. It's a line called Super Cute Plushies, and they are pretty dang cute. I really like them. Plushies in this series tend to be a little bit, they don't have a great track record. Some of them are kind of awkward looking. This Steven looks kind of weird. Some of these dudes, especially the tiny ones, they are pretty awkward. I love them anyway. But, I got these, and Super Cute Plushies also has a really large pumpkin. So I got a pumpkin up there. It's really cute. And then they also have these little guys that have clippies on their heads, so I got the whole series that's out so far. They are made by Funko, and they're mystery bag items, so you don't know which one you're getting, so I had to do some trading to get them. So that's pretty cool. I also recently got this. It looks like sort of a pillow or something, but it's actually like it's pajamas with a hood. So when I wear this, I can look like Lion. It only comes in one size. So of course I will swim in it. And I had to ask the question, if I own this, am I automatically a furry? I'm not sure. So I'm also going to show you, whoops, it's dark. It just got dark over here in my state, and it's rainy today. I also wanted to show you that I got these guys, these new hanging keychain guys that everybody was real excited about. I got the whole set, including the ruby and sapphire wedding. They're really cute. Y'all, if you haven't watched the Steven Universe show, they made some history recently with the same-sex wedding, so get on it, y'all. It's so great. Yeah, so what can I say? Alright, I guess that's going to be the end of the video. A little bit awkward, but I don't care. You guys You guys already know I'm awkward, so I will see you next time I have something to whine about, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!